over the rainbow, where dreams are better than life. There's nobody to save. I sit alone with my head through the sky. Yes, I'm wondering, never asking why. I just see inside, see inside.
Hello, and welcome to the Mechanics of the Maya and our continuing journey of looking at the streams of awareness in the mind. And today we're going to be looking at the movement from doubt to detail. We're going to look at the collective, and we're going to look at the logical collective. Now, it's an interesting thing to understand about the nature of logic. When you're looking at the body graph as a whole, and particularly when you're looking at collective circuitry, if you look at the logic circuit, that is, if you look at the whole circuit, what you see between the sacral center and the G center is the channel 515. And this channel of rhythm, this channel of being in the flow, that this is the core of life itself. As a matter of fact, this is the channel that is at the core of the design of the single cell. Everything in the biological sense about the way in which life operates is built on patterns, and patterns that are rooted in the fifth gate and through the 15th gate, expressed as a flow of patterns on this plane. It is these patterns that dictate life itself. And so when we're dealing with the logical circuitry of the mind, we're also dealing with an aspect of the mental life that is here to look at what is so fundamental to human beings and so fundamental to their basic fears, the future. It's so interesting about the nature of circuitry. The thing about the logic process is that it's always concerned about the future, always concerned about the future. Its way of looking at the possibilities of the difficulties of life is to try to find ways in which they can secure patterns that will allow them to have a safe passage into tomorrow. Everything about the logical process, everything about the logical mind is looking at patterns and trying to see whether or not the patterns are reliable, are stable, and whether or not based on those patterns that activity can be organized that can safely move into the future. Now, we rely on this a lot. In other words, everything about the way in which we have built up our various civilizations is that our various civilizations have been built on organized patterns that shepherd us towards the future. Now remember that when we were looking at a stream, and when we're looking at these streams of awareness, that all streams of awareness begin with a pressure. And here in our particular stream today, we have a pressure in the head center, and that pressure in the head center is focused in the 63rd gate, and the 63rd gate, which has rather a comical name, by the way, it's called after completion. The 63rd gate, which is the gate of doubt. Doubt. Now, there's something to grasp about the way in which the collective stores and processes information, that is the collective mind. Everything is being taken into the deep gray areas. Everything is being taken into the head center where it builds a pressure. What we get to see in the collective is that what gets taken in is visual. It's visual. It is different from the individual mental stream that is acoustic. The collective is visual. So the doubt is not, how shall I put this, in language, but the doubt arises out of the visual of a pattern. For example, there is somebody who knows you and they're meeting you for lunch, and for some reason you never bring, they notice that something in your pattern isn't right. whatever it is, you know, a habit that they normally see you have that you're not displaying or whatever. And whatever it is that breaks that pattern, when it gets stored as memory in that sense, when it goes into the head center, it starts to create a problem, a frequency, whatever. In other words, it becomes a place where there is attention given. The attention is something that we will call doubt. Doubt that arises because there's something wrong with the pattern. Now, if there's something wrong with the pattern, that could lead to other things. Remember, if you've got a logical mind, you're never really focused on right here, right now. It's one of the dilemmas. If you've got a logical mind, you're always trying to extrapolate outward. You're always trying to build something so you can go forward with it. The favorite of politicians. You know, the politician that says, look, let me organize you into this brand new pattern and we can all move together successfully into the future. It's what logic does. And it begins with doubt. It is one of the things to grasp about the nature of logic and the way in which it is constantly being examined. Constantly. Over and over and over again. In the same way that in the channel of logic, in the awareness stream that operates out of the splenic center to the root, in the 1858, is the endless challenge. It is something that logic constantly does. And it will constantly challenge until it finds a pattern, well, that's perfect, you know, that can no longer be challenged. And then in the perversity, and truly it's perverse, in the perversity of what it is to be logical, the same pattern that is proven to be absolutely correct. Every time you add 1 and 1, it equals 2. Every time. And yet logic will test that. You know, how many students of mathematics have had to go through formulas that have been proven thousands and thousands and thousands of times? And yet this is the way that it works in logic. There is always this, let's perfect the pattern and constantly make sure it is correct. So the thing to understand about the logical mind is that the logical mind immediately tunes into anything that doesn't really fit into the pattern, that doesn't really work the way it's supposed to, whatever the case may be. And it's visual. The key is always visual. Now think about this pressure. Sitting there, this 63, you know, this is a heavy pressure. This is doubt. Now think about the average human being, and think about the homogenized world and the nature of the not-self. And think about how this pressure of doubt can lead to all kinds of actions. Actions that ultimately are not going to be to the benefit of that being. You see, it is so easy for us to be driven by mind. The moment that your mind says, I doubt, you are saying, well, what should I do? And remember that this is just a mental process. It is a corrective process. Again, the responsibility of logic is to organize us as we move in this stream. We'll get to the 1762. This is the channel of the organizational being. This is the channel of bringing organization to humanity. But only by eliminating the doubt and guaranteeing the pattern. Do not doubt me. Trust me. Here's the pattern. Here's the future. You know, this is logic. And not only can you see it within that context, that is the political context in that sense, it is also about the values of things. Because everything having to do with this stream is that this is the stream of understanding. It's about understanding. And you see, understanding isn't for now. Understanding is for now into the future. It is about establishing a pattern, an understanding that can stand the test of time. You know what the collective can't stand? Individuality. You know? The collective works so hard at fixing the pattern. The logic works so hard getting the pattern. And then all of a sudden individuality comes along with mutation and boop! They gotta start all over again. They really do. I mean, you know, Newton thought he had it, didn't he? Things move on. They really do. All right, so let's think about this process. You start with this pressure of doubt. There is this doubt. Now, what catches it? Remember that there's this pressure and you've got this ajna center. And this ajna center is all about catching and pitching. It takes in the pressure, and in taking in the pressure begins the conceptualizing process and then prepares it to be moved towards expression. Oh, I love the fourth gate. I'm prejudiced. I have it myself. Youthful folly. It's a great name, isn't it? Youthful folly. But the whole thing about the nature of the fourth gate is that the fourth gate has the potential to come up with an answer to the doubt, a solution to the doubt. It's how it catches it. Now, I got to tell you something. Circuitry is wonderful. You know? It explains to you the way in which things work, but it does not validate them in terms of their truthfulness. The individual that says, I know, well, good for them. You know, but it doesn't really mean that that knowing is for you, or can ever be for you, or have any mutative value for you, or the other, or anybody else. Now think about this in the logical context. In the logical context, you got a question. It's a doubt. You got a doubt. I got a doubt about this thing. And the other side says, don't doubt. I got the answer. Youthful folly. It's a great name, no? I got the answer. Relax. It's okay. I have the answer. Nothing makes people calmer than somebody who says, I have the answer for you. You know? It's like, yeah? Really? You got the answer? And the moment that somebody says they have the answer, you know, every day somewhere in the world, some scientist is publishing something in which he says, I have an answer, or she has an answer. Doesn't always turn out to be true, by the way, that it is the answer. How many times has cancer been cured? AIDS, you know, how many headlines have you read? Great breakthrough in scientist claims that. Yes. I have the answer. Yes, I do. Beware of those who say they have the answer. Beware of those who say, I know. After all, oh, it's so nice to have a strategy and authority. You see, the mind can be so easily fooled. So many human beings think about things that don't matter. It's so easy for them to think that there is an answer that matters for them that in fact means nothing for them. It isn't to say that, you know, it is impossible that doubt leads truly to an answer. But even if it leads to an answer, this is only the catching of the pressure. In essence, taking the pressure off. But it has to be processed. One of the most interesting things graphically in the body graph is you see the way in which the streams of the collective, they cross in the mental system. You know, this crossing that is mirrored in the physicality of the brain itself. And when you look at this crossing over, this 4 and its movement as it goes to the 17, that this 17, you know, this following, yeah, all the great leading begins with following. Everything about the collective logic is about organizing humanity into following. You know, the 15-5 that I referred to earlier, you know, not only is it the channel of being in the flow and this channel of rhythm, but it's a channel about the love of humanity itself. And when you get to the 17th gate, you're getting to the gate of opinion. Opinion. Now again, this is something to be very clear about. Anybody who has the 17th gate is going to be opinionated. You know, I think that. You know, this is the 17th gate. And it is something to understand that the opinion in and of itself, well, it's neither correct or not correct, after all. You know, the thing is not to trust the mechanism, but to honor whatever is your correct relationship to it. Anyway, okay, so we got the 4. The 4 has taken the catch. The 4 says, I got an answer, I got an answer. The 17 says, all right, let's turn that answer into an organized pattern opinion. Because the opinion is a pattern, and it's visual. It's visual. I mean, it really is. It's visual. It's not words. It doesn't become words until it gets to the throat. That opinion is about the way in which you're seeing things. When you're explaining yourself as a logical person, you say to the other person, do you see what I mean? Do you see? I mean, you're talking to them. You're not showing them a picture, but you're saying to them, do you see? Because that's where it comes from. It is about seeing the pattern. It is about getting people to visualize in that sense as you speak to them, to visualize what you are telling them, to visualize the dysfunctional pattern, the problem, the question, the doubt that has an answer that becomes a formulated opinion, formula. It becomes a formulated opinion that can then be expressed. Now again, we come to the magic. You know, there's a thing that is so remarkable about these gates in the throat. And I am particularly fond of the 62nd gate. You know, the preponderance of the small. Yeah, lovely name, isn't it? All the little details. But this is the great gate of Maya, the 62nd gate. It's the great gate of Maya. You see, Maya is created through words, and through words that can be visualized. Isn't that true? Isn't that the way it works? See, this is the magic of the 62nd gate. The magic of the 62nd gate is it creates the words. I have my design earth in the 62nd gate in the first line. And through me, all kinds of new words, literally, have come into the world in the last 21 years. It's what the 62nd gate does. And when I talk about the nature of a design crystal, I create a visual pattern to be seen. It's just the way Maya works. It's the most extraordinary thing about the 62nd gate. Now, the 62nd gate is a voice that says, I think. You know, cognito ergo sum, you know, I think, therefore I am. You know, I think. This is what the 62nd gate does. So what it takes is, it takes the visual pattern opinion, the answer to the doubt, and it lays it out in facts. I think that this is what the problem has been. And out it comes. The magic of it. Every step along the way, when you're operating inside of a stream, you can begin to see that each stream in and of itself is a holistic form. Not everybody has such things. Not everybody has an entire awareness stream defined. As a matter of fact, it's going to be rather rare. The reality is that most human beings have a sprinkling of aspects here or there. But what I'm really getting at in all of this is understanding that though these processes, as I deconstruct them, are very straightforward, there's a doubt, there's an answer, an opinion develops, and it's expressed as a detail, and I think that all of that sounds really good, but that's all fine if you have it all. And most of us don't. And what it means is there's things missing. It means that there are aspects of the process that are not there. I'll take the example of myself. I have the 4323 and I have the 61, but I don't have the 24. So I have three aspects of an awareness stream, but I don't have the 24. I don't even like the 24 because it's a conditioning element when it steps in. In other words, what I want you to understand is that it's one thing to see the way a stream is designed to function, and designed to function when it operates optimally. But it's also important to understand that every single one of us have very, very different ways in which we are constructed, and that we are not designed to have these things optimally at all. That's why the mind is a dangerous thing to trust. Why anyone's process is a dangerous thing to trust. And that to trust it on the mental plane is folly. It is. See, the beauty of what we have in the mechanics of human design is that your ability to be able to discern whether something is of value to you or not is not based on the way you think, but it's based on an inner authority. An inner authority whose criteria, by the way, is totally different from what your mental criterion is. Totally different. In that way, you are protected in the way in which you deal with the mental stimulation that is there. But also something else. It's only when you're operating correctly that you can take advantage of those gaps. You know, those gaps that are there in those streams, wherever they may be. Because there's something very beautiful to understand about openness. Is that when one is no longer conditioned by openness, then every single aspect of openness represents a potential of wisdom. Wisdom. You know, this is the key. And it means that one can then be open to that kind of stimulation coming to your receptors without you being taken away in that conditioning and taken away from what is your true nature. Now the 1762, this channel of the organizational being, this is one of the most important ingredients in life itself. Truly it is. Remember that one of the tenets of design is that when you finally surrender to what is your correct inner authority, then the opportunity is there for you to be able to release your unique outer authority. Outer authority. The future is always going to be a concern for us. As long as we are a bioform, as long as life is fragile, as long as we are going to be concerned for our survival, then our need to be properly organized collectively is something that is paramount. The reality is that we're moving towards an age, or coming to the end of an age, in which, though that has been supported, we're moving into an age where the collective function is going to be minimalized. The understanding of patterns, the understanding of how to take advantage of patterns, whether the pattern takes this direction or that direction, is the gift of logic. And we are all going to be dependent on logic in order to be able to provide us with some kind of security as we move forward. It means that how we live in these vehicles and how we allow these minds to operate correctly is so important for us. You see, it is not a matter that we are in a homogenized world in which things that don't matter becomes things that people worry about, that they look for answers, and you get all kinds of energy applied to all of that. There's a great lesson to be learned about logic when you see logic in the body graph. If you look at the throat and you look at the three gates that are logical gates that move out of the throat, none of them go directly to a motor. Logic is starved for energy. It has always been starved for energy. It's always looking for backing. It's always looking for support. And it's something to understand that we do need to have a clear understanding of where we are and where we can go, and not one that's determined by the homogenized process. Because remember, everything starts with the pressure. If you don't doubt the right thing, funny thing to say, but it's true. If you don't doubt the right thing, you put all of that work into something that is pointless, that does not serve the collective. It is about recognizing where the pattern is at fault, or where the pattern is in decay, and where it really matters to the collective. It's the gift that is there. It's the gift that is there in the 1762. This ability to be able to organize humanity and to be able to protect them as we move forward. Every single process in the body graph, they each explain very clearly the basic mechanisms of what it is to be human. And yet it is this holistic life that demonstrates the humanness, how we live this life. It doesn't really matter what the mechanisms are. It doesn't. It doesn't matter whether you're logic or abstract or individual or this or that. What matters is that if that mind is being used to run your mundane life, to make the decisions for you on a day-to-day basis, whatever value is inherent in it is all being used against the best possible purposes for you. It just is. It's what happens. It's one thing for me to be able to describe the logical process. It's very beautiful. After all, we're designed to look at the patterns, to look at the world around us, to see what doesn't work, and to try to figure out how to make it better. I mean, this is, after all, what we do, no? We need this. But we don't need it within the context of the homogenized mind that cannot properly see. It cannot. Its resources are not there for that. Its resources are there locked into its homogenized life. And then we lose the advantage of being organized for the real future. Being prepared. See, the great gift of the collective is that it's there to allow the common being, the common citizenry, to understand. That it is this understanding, this mutual understanding that binds us. And in its collective nature, it is the collective fears, the collective doubts that have to be challenged, that have to be dealt with. One would hope that we could have some correctness in all of that, because we are so dependent on it. I look out in the world of opinions, and frankly, I'm not impressed. Within the homogenized context, what people doubt isn't the point. The real questions, the most profound questions, are not the ones that are being dealt with, are not the ones that are being pursued, because this is the way in which homogenization distorts our lives and takes away the beauty that is inherent. Every single human being in their design carries their perfection. And yet we well know how distorted that can be in the life if one is not correct. It is true for every single one of these aspects. Deconstructed, they're beautiful, they're correct, they do their job. But in the end, they exist within the holistic life that's you. And it is the way in which your holistic frequency functions that determines the nature of how these aspects in you are going to work. If you're correct, so are they. And if you're correct, you can watch and see. Well, that's what I think today. Anyway, nice that you participated. Till next time, bye for now.
I sit alone with my head through the sky. Yes, I'm wondering, and never asking why. I just see inside, see inside.